It costs around $3,500 to start an Amazon FBA business, but it can cost anywhere from $1,500 all the way up to $20,000 plus to start an Amazon business. And that's because you're gonna have to pay for the design of your product, which includes the logo and the packaging design, which would typically cost around $200. You're also gonna have to pay for the UPC barcodes, which can cost anywhere from $5 to $250. You'll also have to pay for samples of the product that you wanna sell on Amazon, which could cost anywhere from free all the way up to a few $100s. And if you approve of the sample and you wanna pay for a full production run, that production run could cost you anywhere from $300 all the way up to $20,000 plus, depending on the cost of your product and how many units you want to produce. Then you're gonna have to pay for shipping to get the product from your manufacturer into the Amazon warehouse. And depending on whether or not you want to do sea shipping or air shipping and how much product that you're shipping into the warehouse, that number could vary wildly. You also want to pay for photos of your product for your Amazon listing. And on the low end, that's going to cost around $50. And you're probably going to want to get a professional seller account with Amazon, and that's going to cost $39.99 per month. And I'm gonna break down all these fees so you know exactly how much it's gonna cost you to start your Amazon FBA business, as well as share some huge tips on how you can save a lot of money when starting your Amazon business in just a minute. But let me give you some real world examples of how much it actually costs to start an Amazon business. And I've started a lot of my own Amazon businesses, and I've helped a lot of other people start Amazon businesses. And I've interviewed a lot of these people on my channel, and they actually share their real numbers. For example, it cost Mina only $1,500 to start his Amazon business. Now he's doing over $100,000 in sales per month. It cost Troy $5,700 to start his Amazon business. Now he's making a couple $1,000s in profit per month, paying for his Santa Monica apartment. Steven spent $1,800 to start his Amazon business. Now he's been able to quit his job and pay his bills from his Amazon business. Carla spent $5,000 to start her tea company. She's now making a full-time income. Rob, who is a friend and business partner of mine, started his Amazon business with only $1,500, grew it into a $70 million Amazon business, sold it, and was able to retire from the money he made before he was even 30. And AJ, who's a student in my Amazon FBA program, like most of the people I've mentioned so far, he was able to start his business with $0. He's done over $90,000 in sales just on Indiegogo. And when he launched his product on Amazon, within 2 hours of launching it, he sold out of all his inventory. And this is one of the secrets. If you don't have a lot of money and you want to start an Amazon business, do an Indiegogo or a Kickstarter. And for those of you that don't know me, my name is Travis, and it would have cost me around $30,000 to start my Amazon FBA business, but I actually raised $50,000 from a Kickstarter, and then for the rest of the money, I cashed out my 401k and paid for the rest of the production run. And even though that sounds like a lot of money to start an Amazon FBA business, for the last 3 years, I've been able to make over $100,000 in profit per year, passive income, because I started my Amazon FBA business. And this is one of the best things I've ever done. These last 3 years have been some of the best years of my life. I've been able to travel the world, work when I want to work, do the things that I love doing. But let's break down how much it's actually going to cost you to start your Amazon FBA business. And the first cost to think about is the cost to design your product. Now, I am going to be talking about some mandatory fees for starting your Amazon FBA business and also some optional fees. For example, a lot of people think you need to pay for product research tools. That's not true. I'm going to give you some techniques on how you can do product research for free later in this video. The first mandatory fee is the design for your product. And what I mean by this is the logo, the packaging design, things like that. And I would recommend spending at least $200 on the design for your product. Now, if you really want to create a solid brand, you can spend more than this. I actually spent $800 on my logo and $200 on the actual design of my packaging. You could also spend less on your logo and design and always improve it later. You also need to pay for UPC barcodes, which is required by Amazon for you to list a product. Now, you can get really cheap barcodes from sites like Speedy Barcodes or going on eBay. You can get barcodes for around $5. Now, I don't recommend using those barcodes because a lot of times they're not legit. The proper way to do it is to go to gs1.org and pay $250 for 10 barcodes. Now, you only need one of these barcodes per product, but the sad thing is you have to buy a bundle of 10. The next thing you'll want to pay for is samples of your product, because before you spend a few $1,000s on a production run, you want to make sure that the product you're going to get is going to be good. And a lot of times manufacturers will give you a sample for free. You'll just have to pay for shipping, which from China is going to cost you around $40. But depending on what kind of product you're selling, the cost of the sample actually might be a lot more. For instance, with cocktail cards, we spent $300 on a printed sample. And if you're unsure how to find a manufacturer for your product, don't worry. I've got a free video I'll link up here and down below, step by step, helping you to find a manufacturer. But once you find a manufacturer that you like, they send you a sample and it's good, it's time to pay for your first production run. And this is going to cost you around, let's say, $1,800. assuming that you purchase 300 units at $600 per unit. For instance, for Steven's product, it cost him under $1 per unit, so he was able to start with only spending $300 on the production run. The other factor to consider is how many units of the product do you want to manufacture in your first production run. For example, with cocktail cards, for the first production run, we manufactured 1,500 units. Now, I don't recommend that for everyone. For most people, for your first production run, I recommend starting with somewhere around 300 units. Basically, you want to purchase around 3 to 6 months worth of inventory. However much you think you're going to sell within the first 6 months, I would do that as your first production run. Once your product is manufactured, you're gonna have to pay for shipping to get it from your manufacturer into the Amazon warehouse. Now, how much you pay for shipping depends on a few different factors. The first thing to consider is, do you want to ship your product via sea or via air? Air shipping is a lot quicker, but it's also a lot more expensive. There's also a higher chance that your product's gonna get damaged. Sea shipping, on the other hand, is a lot slower. We're talking around 4 to 6 weeks at least, but it is a lot less expensive. Now, prices change for both these depending on market demand. It's also gonna depend on how big your product is, how heavy your product is, but using cocktail cards as an example, it costs around $4 per unit to ship it via air and around $2 or so per unit to ship it via sea. And those prices are inflated because right now there is a lot of demand to ship products from China to the United States. Hopefully in a few months, those prices will go down. You'll also want to pay around $50 to get photos taken of your product for your Amazon FBA listing. Now, I recommend, instead of getting photos taken, to actually do computer renderings. And you can get a computer rendering of your product anywhere from $50 to $150. This is one of the most important places to invest in your business, because remember, when someone buys a product online, they don't get to hold it in their hand. The only interaction they have with your product is via images. So you have to let them know what it's gonna feel like to own that product, and you're gonna have to convince them using the images, your title, your bullet points, that they want to buy your product. You should also expect to pay around $100 to $150 for a DBA. And DBA stands for doing business as, and it allows you to open up a business bank account, a business credit card, and it basically shows Amazon that you're a legitimate business. Now, if you wanted to instead, you can get an LLC, which is generally much more expensive, but it gives you a lot more protection. Now, you can technically open an Amazon seller account without a DBA. I would recommend having that DBA. And the last fee to consider is the Pro Amazon Seller Account fee. It's gonna cost you around $39.99 per month. Now, you don't necessarily have to pay for a Pro Seller Account. You can get the basic seller account, but the Pro Seller Account comes with a lot of features and a lot of benefits. I think it's worth the $39.99 a month. Now, something that most people won't tell you is you're probably gonna have your Amazon seller account before you actually start selling on Amazon. So expect to have that for about 3 months. I would budget around $120 for it. Though thinking about it now, you may be able to start with the basic account and wait to upgrade until you're actually ready to sell to the Pro account. Most likely it'll cost you around $3,000 to $5,000 to start your Amazon FBA business. But remember, if you don't have a lot of money, you can actually start your Amazon FBA business for $0 if you use Indiegogo or Kickstarter. There's also a lot of optional costs, things like tools, product giveaways, Amazon PPC, getting a trademark, and a bunch of other things I'll quickly go over. But one of the best ways to save money is you don't need to pay for product research tools like Helium 10 or Jungle Scout. In fact, I did a full video talking about how you can do product research for free. I'll link up here. But I will say, if you're brand new to this, it's worth investing in a tool like Helium 10, and I have a huge discount code, 50% off. You can click down below. I also have a deal for Jungle Scout, and I'll link that down below. But for me personally, if I was new to Amazon FBA, I'd pay for Jungle Scout for 1 month, and then as soon as I find a product, you can cancel it. And if you're going to do that, make sure you get the discount code, or if you don't want to pay for any product research tools, that's fine. Here's a video up here on how to do it for free. Amazon PPC is another optional fee if you really want to crank up the sales for your business. I've got a full tutorial on how to do Amazon PPC. I explain everything. I'll link that down below as well. But